She's this very, very diligent girl, who has this attitude of, put your head down and work. She's somebody who keeps us on our toes to do better and to move for people like her. Sant, why don't you talk a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Hi, I'm Sant. I'm enrolled in graphic design part-time course at IIAD. Currently, I'm an undergrad student majoring in commerce, but I always had this interest to know and learn and explore about design, its process. That's how I ended up at IIAD to kickstart my journey into the creative industry. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so that's a little bit about us. Let's talk about what we're going to do today, what we're going to address today. So this is what we have planned for you today. We're going to talk a little bit about what graphic design actually is, what are the opportunities in the industry as a graphic designer. Then our students will showcase some of their work that they've done with us. And then we finally talk about, the courses at IIAD and what we offer, and then move on to questions if you have any. All right, so to start with, let's talk about what graphic design is. As from an outsider's purview, a lot of the times what you see are very glossy, finished outcomes, and that sometimes leaves the impression that designing is about creating pretty outcomes, making things look aesthetically nice and pleasing. Yes, that is one aspect of it, but designing is not just that. As a designer, you wear many hats. You have to sometimes fulfill many roles. So let's look at what some of those roles can be. Firstly, you have to start reading up. You have to become a researcher in your own way. You have to read up about who your client is, who your target audience is, who you're designing for, what the purpose of your designing is. Then you're also a planner. Now, especially for somebody who's working as an independent designer or a freelancer, there's a lot of times when you have to plan your finances, plan your deadlines, plan how the entire project also pans out. Then you're a thinker. As designers, we learn to think both creatively and critically. So a lot of the times designers also end up being overthinkers. We're constantly questioning our decisions and our rationale behind things. Then this is the most obvious one. As a designer, obviously you're a creator. You're constantly creating new things, working on new projects, working on outcomes, and designing is also something that gives you the opportunity to constantly keep learning. With every project that you take up, with every new brand that you work with every new person that you work with, you have to keep updating yourself with their background, sort of step into their shoes. You also have to keep learning and be hands-on with what is happening in the world with respect to technology, with respect of the kind of tools that you can use, with the trends that are in there in the industry, because they're constantly changing, and in today's time technology is also constantly only growing. So these are some of the things that you do as a designer. You can finally choose what you want to be more of. So it's sort of versatile in that manner. We'll get to that when we talk about the opportunities later. So designing is not just about creating, but it is about planning and driving a communication through visuals. So yeah, that's pretty much what graphic design is. And it's quite versatile in nature. Talking about versatility, let's look at some of the opportunities that you have in the industry as a designer. So you can choose to eventually specialize in any one of the things that I have listed on this screen. You can choose to work as a brand identity designer. So what people usually know as a logo design in a layman terminology. So you can be working with small upcoming brands in the industry. You could be working with a design agency, or continuing to practice your own design independently. A lot of these brands, in fact, all brands need their communications to be designed as well in a way that they can reach their audiences. So you can also be hired as, an in-house person for a brand, driving their communications to their audiences. So think of it like, creating newsletters, emailers, even social media creatives. So you're looking after the entire communication that the brand has to get across. You can also specialize in designing for the digital media, which is, very quickly growing in today's time. I think most brands are very aware of the power of digital design and social media today. So you can be designing specifically for social media and digital spaces as well. You could be working in, a digital agency, or again, working as, practicing your own independently. Then you can also, if you enjoy, creating strategies and thinking and planning, then you can also work as a campaign designer, where you look at an entire campaign and how it pans out for a brand. Again, you could be working in a big advertising agency. Very rarely will you do this as an independent designer, because it involves a big team in play, but you could be someone who is bringing all of these people together and creating a campaign for someone. Again, you can choose to, if you enjoy print and books, then you can specialize as a print and publication designer. You could work as a, designer in a publication house, or for a magazine, for a digital publication even, or you could be someone who's independently creating books as well, right? Then you can also do what you can do is get into motion graphic design, which is again involve marriage of animation and graphic design. So if I have to sum it up for you, like I said, the possibilities of the kind of work that you do are endless. You can always, especially at AND, we have a lot of learners who already have a background in something else, right? So say, for example, if you're an artist or a writer or somebody from visual arts, marketing, you can always have that knowledge, marry it with graphic design, and then choose a job role for yourself. And in today's time, I think with so many great brands emerging, so many small businesses emerging who understand design, who value good design, the width or the scope of design is only increasing, with AI coming into the picture, with virtual reality, with augmented reality. If you enjoy technology, you can bring that into your practice and do a lot of wonderful, innovative things along with it. On that note, what I would like to do is invite our students first to share some of their work. I wish there was an actual sound of a drum roll, but for now, let's just make do with this quiet animation that we have. So to begin with, I would like to invite Meenakshi to talk about the very first project she did in the second week of her course. Meenakshi, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. So the first ever project that we did, and I hadn't ventured into digital yet. I was purely a physical painter, and this is a huge project for me. So the project was called the Leaf Project, but I named it the last leaf because, spoiler alert, the plant dies. The project actually had you to study a house plant, anything that's around your house, understand the nuances of it, details of it, take pictures, and observe every tiny detail of it to create over 50 to 60 doodles per day. And it expands your vision and see things that are very minuscule and very unique to that plant itself. And what we did was, after creating a set of batch of doodles, it's a very iterative process where you refine it further using the theories and the principles that we learned in class. and creating composition and details of these nuances of the plant itself. You can see snippets of my work here. I've not included all 50 because that would be a lot of time. But it goes on to show how much detail and how much observation that you have to do, because after 20, I was stumped. I was lost as to how much more can I do. And you keep going back because you need to create 50, right? So you keep going back, see all the graves and the lines on the leaves and the texture, the weight, how it reacts to the environment. And we develop something that is completely original and completely unique. And that was the intention of this project. I'll throw in a little fact for you as well, where there's this French impressionist, Claude Monet, who used to go and visit this pond for the last 30 years of his life, the same pond day after day with the same water lilies, and he kept creating paintings over and over of it. And those paintings have been iconic and worldwide renowned because of how detailed and nuanced it is. So it goes on to show how much there's so much out there to create, and all you have to do is just look really hard. So this is my project, the first project that I did. I'll hand it over to Dushyant, who will be taking you through a more stepped up challenge that we did. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Meenakshi. So as Meenakshi has mentioned about her first project, so this is actually the second project we did as a part of our journey in the first module. So this is the type-based project which we started. And the brief was to create a poster for a music event. And so the brief was also given to us to use only certain kind of fonts without using any graphical element. And so referring like to what Meenakshi has shown you, just like doing the doodling ideation. So we also have gone through the same kind of process to create this poster, where we experimented with different kind of fonts, making different compositions. And what I also tried to do is using the paper folding to, because the name which I chose is Unfold. So I wanted to say the event name out loud using some kind of different method, and which gave me idea to use the paper folding. And again, this paper folding method went through different phases, refinements, and then we converted into digital process. Converted into digital format, and the final outcome which you're seeing right now. So usually for me, it was a very good learning. So something like this to create, I would usually use various graphical elements and put so many things to bring that essence. But I realized, okay, with just using the font and some simple technique, I can create something minimalistic and impactful. So that was about this project of type-based project. So what you're seeing right now and what Meenakshi and I have shown is just the very refined versions of what we have done. And from here onwards, I would like to hand over to Sant. She will take you through what goes behind what you see as very clean and refined thing, what goes behind the process of making it. So Sant, over to you.
Thank you, Dushyant. Okay, so now they both showed their refined versions of Behance portfolios. I'll take you through some behind the scenes of the process, like the messy part of it, which usually happens on Miro. So Miro board is like, a designer's journal where we take note of each of our step of our process. So like from research till the final execution, we create whatever we create, all the messy stuff happens right there on Miro. It's where all the messy stuff is hidden and kept, but it's also where the actual magic happens. Okay, so to give you a little context about the print and publication project, the brief was simple. We were supposed to create like an 8-page brochure about a show temple for a travel company. They wanted like 50 copies in print. It'll also be posted online. So that was a little brief. Then we started out the process with like an inspiration board. You collect all different kinds of images, color palettes, texts, typefaces, anything that you feel would help you in your ideation and execution part of the project. Then I started executing the idea. I had different ideas for like one spread, because each spread had its own relevance, and you also have to take the brief into consideration. So the little yellow tags that you're seeing are the times when I actually felt stuck. So I used to tag our mentor for like a quick suggestion or support that I needed. So those were little times and I actually feel stuck and confused. Those are the different spreads that we were supposed to create as a part of the brochure. Then we also had one-on-one mentoring session where we discussed the design aspects a little more deeply, so to understand where's their scope of improvement, how can we go about improving and refining the layouts that we've decided. We learned about grid systems in the class, so I was trying to apply that to the brochure. Then I did like self-analysis. So like as a designer, it's a healthy habit to have, where you can analyze your own designs. You can jot down things that are working for your design, things that you're feeling stuck at. So it helps you to clarify and get some clarity for yourself for the next step. So as we were nearing the deadline, we had like one last review sessions, post which I did lots of shortlisting and rejecting of ideas before I reached that final refined outcome. So that was the final outcome. I managed to create like a very minimal contemporary looking brochure design, keeping the brief in your consideration. I felt like through this project, we got to learn like new concepts about, how to decide layouts, how to choose a specific grid system for your project. We were working on InDesign, so we learned how to export the document when you send it for printing, different kind of printing and binding technique you use for your project. So yeah, that was like the behind the scene project process. Now back to Dushyant and Meenakshi, they'll take you through some more intense, comprehensive project and process. So over to you.
Thank you, Sant. So the next project I would like to take you through is my brand identity project, and which personally for me is my favorite project to work with, and especially it was our last project as a part of our first module, and it was a very immersive process to go through to making this brand identity, where the idea was to create a brand identity from very scratch. And we started with a tagline. So for me, my tagline was it's electrifying, and then we did a lot of behind like back-end work of creating metrics and deciding the people, the product and everything. And what I decided is a energy drink brand, and it's for youthful and adventure loving people. And so same as other processes that we have done for our previous projects. So we started with doodling, and before that also we did some other pre-work, which is like doing a lot of research, what existing brand in the market are doing, and did a lot of competitor analysis, giving some ideas, what qualities that we can use as our plus point or as an opportunity areas for the brand. And because I decided to make it more youthful after the basis of this research, and so this is the tone of voice I decided to go for my brand. And then the actual process of logo making started. So usually it's not just, I used to think, okay, making a logo very easy thing, just doing some doodling and then you come with something. And sorry. Yeah. So like the doodling part, this is the final idea which I have selected. But before that, I decided to go with different kind of doodles, like different electric energy, representing electric forces, lava, and so many things. But the idea of eel, using eel as a logo for my brand, is something which stuck on, and I worked on it and then refined it, then used different kind of experiment with the fonts, then the colors. And then after that, when the logo is finalized, we created the brand guidelines, how it should be used, and what things to do and not to do with the logo. So all this was a very immersive process to do for this brand identity project, and then also seeing how it will look like on the actual product, creating the mock-ups and all. So especially it was a great learning going through this project, because all the learnings from past 4 months has come into the play while experimenting with the colors, the fonts, the composition, creating the right balance and setting up the right message was something which was great to experiment and apply into something, a project like this. So this is again a refined version of what went through, what you're seeing right now on the screen. And from here onward, the Meenakshi will take you through what the messy thing we have done to create our brand. So she will take you through her brand identity project. Over to you, Meenakshi.
Yeah. It looked very neat and cool on Dushyant's behance, but it looks extremely messy and disorganized in my mirror. So, like how Dushyant took you through a bird's eye view of how the process is like, and how Soumya ma'am had mentioned that a graphic designer wears a lot of hats. There was a lot of research and a lot of time that went before creating the actual logo itself, where we had interviews, we created empathy maps and personas to find out the target group that we are designing the logo for. And that goes on to show how much work that goes beyond simple visual design that you put out to the world. And we'll go through some of the explorations that I did for the logo, because what you saw in Dushyant was his final clean logo, which he's worked really hard on. And this is the hard work that goes on behind it. My brand was Foo Fruiters, like Foo Fighters, the band. And it was a baby food company that sold pureed fruits to babies. So the intention of it was to create very minimal, playful, and fruity logo that people can appeal to. So we started off by creating connotations and how people can find the logo relatable, and how we can include those elements that I wanted as the brand into it, like playfulness and fun and minimalistic. So we played around with texture, elements of fruits, elements of naturality, and you can see the very messy, playful logos that I've created. And overall, we had to go back and refine our choices and pick out things that work well with what our identity is. Even the colors that are chosen have a lot of impact on how people view your brand and the logo that goes out to it. So even in the choice of colors, we pick out something that's aligned to what we want. So you can see here the amount of explorations that we had to do, where we keep refining. And from the first step to the last step, you can see how much better it's getting with the revisions. So essentially, I ended up with a more clean and concise logo that fits with all of my attributes, so that it appeals to the target audience as well, and a more minimalistic, clean, and playful logo, which has a circular format, which symbolizes like a closed community and safety. So when it's a eatable and a food brand, it's quite appealing to have a sense of security, right? So this is how my brand identity project, Dushyant and I had the same brief, so we had to like work on it separately as well. So this is how it's worked out for us. So yeah, this is our brand identity. Sant will take you through some more of what we'll be doing next as well.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Okay, so based on whatever Dushyant and Meenakshi has done for the brand identity project, for the project of my final term 1 project, we were supposed to we were given a real brand. It was not a hypothetical brand. The brand was called Jambori. It's kind of like an online collaborative platform of IIAD and KSA. So you could check out IIAD's Instagram handle for that. The brief was very simple. We were supposed to create visual narrative-based social media creative for Jamboree, which was supposed to be put up either on Instagram or LinkedIn. So there was some real pressure to match up to the standard of Jamboree's already existing content. So we wrote down the narrative based on a chapter that I selected. Then we, like in previous project, we created a brand manual. In this case, we already had one. So we actually had to extract Jamboree's personality, the goals, the vibe, the voice, the target audience that they had. So it was like a reverse kind of a process that happened here. Then we had like a special session on understanding social media, so how it functions, how you can create impactful content to maximize audience reach. We took, visual cues from Jamboree's already existing social media creatives that they've put up on Instagram and LinkedIn. So we created a mood board that will help us, further for creating visual based designs. Then we did a lot of storyboarding for different ideas. Storyboarding is like, you kind of create content frame by frame, or maybe you divide a content into different frames. So it's easy for you to design the visuals accordingly. And I shortlisted like an idea. I did a SWOT analysis for that particular idea. Interestingly, I think for this project, we also had our peers review our ideas, give their perspective on their, what the ideas that we were working on. So it was interesting to see different concepts about it. I took one idea to digitization process, but then, I stepped back. I did like reinterpreted the idea. I developed the idea, little differently based on the new narrative that I had for now. Yeah, so you could scroll. Yeah. So this was like, I had like a random idea. I took a concept around it and tried to rework on that idea constantly. We had simultaneous reviews with our mentors. So this was like, I had a very random idea conversation that had happened. I took review from our mentor, and eventually I developed that idea further. So if you could scroll down a little. Yeah, so these were like different variations and iterations that I was trying to do to incorporate that concept. We had like bunch of mentoring sessions throughout the process. So it helped me out to, kind of match Jamboree's personality with the kind of social media post that I was trying to create. I had like a animated video kind of a thing in my head. So we tried to refine the idea based on the color palette that was there for Jamboree. We also were supposed to create like a dummy account, put the creatives there and test it out if it was working or not. So that's the final outcome. So these are the stills from the animated video that I took as like a cue to start off animations and put put the motion part of it into it. So I think now we'll share the video. It's actually like we still have a little more refinement to do before it goes live on AND's and IIAD's Insta handles. So the process is not ended here. We still have lots of refinement and refinement and reworking on this to do.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much, guys. Before we move on to the next part, I think we have a question that I think, Meenakshi or Dushyant, I think you should both answer. Somebody has what is an empathy map, because they saw it on your branding project. Dushyant, would you like to take that first? And then Meenakshi, if you have anything to add to it, you can go ahead.
So yes, so empathy map is so after our competitor analysis, we worked upon like the target audience that we decided to. So we looked upon what are the positives or the things which are good about the brand which are already existing, and what are the areas to improvement which people are like. So we did a lot of interviews with real people with among our friends and family members, and figured out, okay, what are the things this brand is lacking. So after that we created a mapping, and so these, on the basis of these interviews, we created these points, jotted down these points about, okay, what are the areas of improvement that we can bring into our brand identity making. And so that's how design it to bring out those best elements for your own brand. And since Meenakshi board is open, probably she can explain about her process.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dushyant. And what we are essentially doing is appealing to the empathy of the users. So we understand how they process their day and how they use, how they parent. For me, it was a baby food company. So my target audience was mothers and parents and caretakers. So what we do is we understand what they do, think, feel, and see, hear about how the world reacts and how society reacts to the product, and how they fed their children, and what they expect from the brand itself. So doing all this eventually leads to us having more clarity about how to visually design something that appeals to them in how they do think and feel, right? So that is the intention of an empathy map, and I hope that clears the question.
Yeah. So it's basically like stepping into your audience's shoes for a little bit and trying to understand their needs. Right. Okay. The rest of the questions we'll get to at the end of the session, but you can start putting them in into the Q&A section even now, and we'll answer those later at the end of the webinar. Moving on, now let's talk about what we offer as And Academy and how we're able to bring something that is a practice-based subject. You cannot learn design by just listening to somebody talk about it. You have to actually get your hands dirty, make things, remake things under somebody's guidance, with perspectives of different people, not just mentors, but peers as well. And that is how you learn to design. So in an online space, I think a lot of people have this question that how we're able to do this online. So let's talk a little bit about that. We like to keep our sessions active. So you are not just listening, like I said, you're not in a passive mode, but you're as active as your teacher, instructor, or mentor as well, right? These are interactive, not just interactions between students and mentors, but also between the students. And it's collaborative because you never design in isolation. You design as a team, as a group of people working towards a common goal. So let's look at how we enable that. What we also do is, with us, you can learn and work at the same time. Our courses are designed in a way where, if you have something else that you're taking up during the day, you can come and study with us. Along with that, you don't need to quit your job to learn design, right? Then we also ensure that our projects that you work on, our briefs and our feedback, our processes are relevant to the actual practice that happens in the industry, and they are not just theoretical and academic. Again, like I said, our online experiences are quite engaging. We make that happen through a marriage of human support and technology. So a lot of this you would have already seen when we were scrolling through some of the Miro boards. The the classes that we have, the sessions that we host, like I said, are instructor-led. You're not on your own, and they're live, so they're not pre-recorded sessions. You get to interact with different mentors coming from different walks of lives and experiences. Like, let me show you this here. If I go on to Sun's Miro board, for example, you will see a lot of comments being dropped over here. So even when we're not in a live session, we still make sure that you're not left alone to work on your own. You can still receive feedback and comments from both your mentors and your peers. We also have a world-class learning management system. So it's like a backup of your classroom all in one place. It's
okay. I think Soumya's back up again. Soumya? Am I audible? You're on mute, Soumya. Yeah.
Hi, sorry about that. Some technical glitch at my end.
That's all right.
What's life without a few technical glitches, right?
Let's just pick up where we left off.
So I'm just going to start my screen share. Is my screen on the right? Oh, yeah, all right. Can somebody help me with till where you could hear me? Because I'm not very sure.
I think you were talking about how different, mentors come up with different experiences, and we have the opportunity to connect with them through, tagging them on Miro.
Right. Okay. Thank you, San. Right. So moving on, we also have a learning management system, and it is something that it's called Canvas, and it is used by some of the most prestigious institutions of the world, including Howard. So what it essentially does it's like a backup of what happens in the class. So you have all your study material, all your instructions, projects, everything in one place for you to access, so you don't you're not working in isolation without any help. You have something to refer back to. We also work with a lot of tools and technologies, so that we can come together and work collaboratively. What we took you through was one of the tools today. It's called Miro. Apart from that, we have a few other tools and softwares that we also use. So this is essentially what is the USP of our courses. Moving on, these are the 3 courses that we offer in graphic design at AND right now. The first one I'm going to talk about is the postgraduate diploma. It's a year-long course and it's a full-time course. So if you have a year in hand, and if you're able to give 5 days a week to this course, then this is the right fit for you. If you have a full-time job, for example, if you cannot do a full-time course, then we also have a diploma course, which is a 32-week long course. It has classes late in the evening, so you can attend our sessions, after you're done with work and you're back home. The classes happen twice a week. And if you do not have 32 weeks to invest into this, if you're somebody who's looking to get a taste of what graphic designing is, sort of understand whether your skill set matches what is required for a designer or not, then you can also opt for a certificate course, which essentially builds the basic or the fundamentals of visual design for you. Again, the classes are part-time and the classes happen later in the evening, and the classes are scheduled for 2 days a week. So that's it from our end, and we're open to questions now. So if you have anything, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section on Zoom.
Before we move on to questions, I can see that there are a couple of questions and they are pouring in. But before we move on to questions, I've just put in a link to a form in the chat box, and I would request you to kindly take 2 minutes of your time and just fill it. It's a very small form that requires you to select the feedback on a linear scale. So let's just pause for a minute and take a minute out of this webinar to just fill that form. I would request all the attendees to just do that. If you're facing some kind of issue with the link, please just let me know. The link for the form is in the chat box. Okay, I think we can start with the Q&A session. Okay, so Smriti is asking, is it necessary to be good at illustration for going into brand identity or graphic design? Soumya, is Soumya paused?
Yeah, I think we lost Soumya again.
Yeah, I think we've lost Soumya again. Let's just wait for a moment while she joins back on. Soumya, are you back with us here? Yeah. Okay. So Smriti is asking, is it necessary to be good at illustration for going into brand identity graphic design?
Right. So I think a lot of people confuse, good drawing skills to design. You do not need to be good at drawing or illustrations to be a good graphic designer, to be a good brand identity designer. If you have an interest or the skill set to illustrate, we will, encourage you to bring that into your design practice and help you develop it in your projects. Like if you could see, Dushyant and Meenakshi took a very illustrative sort of an approach for their brand identity project, but you do not necessarily need to do that.
Okay. Okay, this is an interesting question. Presentations from the students were awesome. So congratulations on that, guys. How do you see application of AI in graphic designing?
Okay, so I think this is a long discussion, and like I said earlier, technology is always something in today's time that is constantly developing. So AI is something that is happening right now. Before this, there was virtual reality, there was augmented reality. So as a designer, it's important to adapt to it, to know about how you can use AI to be able to design, right? But yeah, like there's a lot of possibilities, but you have to go ahead and explore them.
Right.
So it becomes like these, technology becomes a tool for you as a designer.
Right.
And what you can do with it is essentially endless.
Okay, so Momin is asking, what do you mean by communication design, industrial design, product design? Will these type of designs be covered in the graphic design course?
Okay, so communication design is very similar to what graphic design also is. They're both almost the same thing. It is basically communicating through visuals. Industrial design is not related to graphic design. Product design and industrial design are pretty similar to each other, but they are more in the space of designing 3D objects and products, which again, like I said, is not related to graphic design at all.
Okay, I would like to direct this question towards Azhar now. Somebody wants to know, do we have any collaborations with other studios or companies?
Yes, we do. So, An Academy has a very strong industry connects, and wherein the internships, the placements, and also the freelance projects comes in. So yes, we do have a strong industry connect there.
Sneha wants to know, are there any courses about concept development and character design? Do we cover that in the course, Soumya?
Okay, so concept design, I don't know, I'm not sure what you exactly mean by that. Shubhangi, am I audible?
You're audible, but your videos pause.
I'm just going to go off video for a bit because I think
Okay.
there's a problem with my internet
All right,
connection.
that's all right. Yeah.
But I'm not sure what you mean by concept development. Actually, we do teach you how to develop a concept, how to think of a concept and develop it. That's what you saw in the projects that were projected today. Character design, we touch upon a little bit as a part of our full-time postgraduate diploma program, but we do not address it in depth.
Okay. So Suvigya wants to know, are there any offline courses at all? Yeah, Soumya.
Yes, we're completely online, and what we try to do is bring that offline experience into our online class. That's the endeavor.
Yeah, all our courses are live and online, and we try to create a classroom-like experience while we're doing that online. And I think Soumya has nicely elaborated how we do that in the presentation itself. So yeah. What will be the ideal timing for evening classes for diploma?
Okay, so right now we have batches running on the time of 7:30 to 10:30 p.m. in the evening. So it'll be something around that, post 7 o'clock in the evening.
Right. Sonam wants to know, can you please share the fee structure of all the courses? Sonam, I would recommend that you check out the website for andacademy.com or write to our course counselors or write to apply@andacademy.com. Our course counselors will be able to help you out with that better. So yeah. Is Canva, somebody's asking, is Canva and Figma beginner tools for a graphic designer?
So Canva is very debatable. Even as designers, we debate on using Canva because it has a lot of pre-existing designs, and then what it essentially does is it allows you to make good-looking things at the end, right? So that's not the entire role of a designer. Figma, yes, it is. It's used actively in UI design, but yes. In comparison to the other Adobe softwares like Photoshop and Illustrator, you could call it a beginner level tool.
Right. Somebody has a question. Is the 32-week course a good option to be a full-time graphic designer? I am a college student and want to master it. What would your advice be to this person, Soumya?
Okay, I think Sant is in a similar situation, right? She's studying as well as, she's doing our diploma program. Sant, would you like to say something to this?
I think from my experience, you can definitely get a good hang of, the graphic design course at and I think the module is designed such that you get a hands-on experience. You're working on like briefs as it's there in the industry, and plus we get to interact with the industry experts who act as our mentors throughout the modules. So I think, yeah, definitely I feel like by the end of 32 weeks, you can call yourself like a graphic designer.
Right. Just to add to that, it is something that allows you to step into the industry, and then depending on how dedicated you are, you keep growing. But yes, it is enough for you to get a job starting, as a graphic designer, starting out as a designer. Yeah.
Okay. RK wants to know how to start freelancing as a graphic designer.
How to start freelancing is a tricky question. First, you need to have, a sense of what you want to do as a designer, what kind of projects you want to take up. You need to be ready to take on multiple roles. You need to be able to handle, you need to be very self-driven and motivated to be able to to freelance work. That's one. Second, you need to have a very strong portfolio of work, because because what you're doing is you're getting your own clients for yourself, right? So to get a client, get a good project that you want to take on, for that project to happen and be executed, then for that client to be able to pay you, it's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. So you need to be very strong, motivated, have a good portfolio of work, and you should be ready to put yourself out there, to market yourself as well.
Right. Okay. Somebody wants to know, is there anything we can do on our own to get better at graphic design?
I think on your own, what you can do is you can get better at aesthetics on your own, but to get better at actually designing, I think you need to show your work to people. You need to get in touch with probably existing designers in the industry, and have them review your work, show it to people, even friends, family, people who understand design, and constantly keep getting feedback on your work is what you can do. Otherwise, yeah, you can read books to learn the theories, but there's only so much that you can do on your own, right? Apart from that, it is about understanding multiple perspectives and trying to put them into your work.
Okay. Bhagyarekha wants to know, would I and my fellow students be able to achieve the same quality of work with a PG diploma as one would with a bachelor's or a master's in design? What would you suggest otherwise? Soumya, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so the quality of work is I think, again, debatable. You cannot achieve the same depth of work for sure. The more time you spend on it, the better your outcomes are going to be, right? In a bachelor's course, you're spending 4 years learning the craft, right? So our 1-year diploma, our 7-month diploma cannot match that experience for sure. If you have 4 years to devote to this, then go join a physical design school if you have the liberty of investing that time.
Right. Suvigya wants to know, for someone who has decided to go for a design school, would you advise them to go for a design school or a course that is more UI UX focused, or an institution or course that is focused on teaching design overall? Okay.
Okay. So what graphic design also is, for example, Sant, again, that is what she's done, because she did not have a background in design. She first chose to go for the graphic design diploma for 6 months so that she understands the basics of visual design. And then now, after completing this 6 months of graphic designing, she's going to now go for the UX course, so that, it's a build up, like a step up to the basics of visual design. So if you do not have a design background at all, then please go ahead and study overall design and then get into a specialization of UX.
Right. Dinesh wants to know the fee for PG diploma. Dinesh, I would recommend that you check out the website for And Academy. It's andacademy.com, or write to our counselors at apply@andacademy.com. What are the timings for the certificate course?
The certificate course also happens later in the evenings. So again, post 7 o'clock is what we're looking at.
Okay, this question will be directed towards Azhar. Azhar, could you please elaborate a bit more about the placement support that is offered at An Academy?
Sure. So there is a dedicated career services team for all the learners at An Academy, and how we help students to get into their respective careers, whether it's graphic design or UI UX or any other. So there is a personalized module which is called career development module for all the AND learners, where there is a personal guidance from the career team, whether it's your portfolio, it's your resume, or it's how to showcase your showcasing yourself to the real world, your project or your technical skills, or also your building up your LinkedIn, which is like very, very important these days. Then there would be a one-to-one conversation with the career services team to align you to your interest. Like if you, let's say, if you want to go ahead and work for, let's say, some consulting firms, then we'll align you with them. Or you want to work with, let's say, some aggregators, we'll align you with them. Uh, uh, or with some design studio if you want to work, or for the advertisement agencies. So yeah, this is how it works. It starts from the day one, and we are there for you until you get placed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Azhar. Arushi wants to know, when will the batches start for PG diploma in graphic design?
So we're looking at starting somewhere in March. So consider the beginning of March as the starting date for the next batch.
Right, okay. Arushi, we would recommend that you get in touch with our course counselors who'll be able to help you better with this. So Vigya wants to know, would you recommend that the UX UI design course for somebody who's only experience in design is doodling? Okay.
I didn't quite get that. Could you? Okay, I'm reading it on my. Okay, that's interesting. But no, so doodling is a way of thinking, right? And this is more like an illustrator sort of a role that you're looking at. So Vigya, I'm assuming. So it is quite different from actual visual design, right? Because doodling is quite emotive. You think of something and you doodle it on the walls, right? You're not caring about your audience, and it is different from the basics of visual design. So yes, I would recommend you to again do the visual design or the graphic design course first, and then look at UI or UX.
Okay. One of the attendees wants to know that they would love to register for the And Academy course. Do we hold weekend classes? My office hours are till 9 p.m. on weekdays. Okay, Soumya, would you take that up?
We'll have to look into that. We decide the days of the batch, closer to the actual start date, depending on, what works for most of the batch. So that is something we'll have to look at closer to the start of the course date.
All right. Another attendee wants to know, will they be getting the design softwares from And Academy, or will they need to buy them? Okay, Soumya.
So we do give a subscription of the Adobe suite. So you do not need to buy any softwares. They will be given to you as a part of the course.
Okay. Smriti is saying, I am an architect by degree, but pursuing photography. I wanted to know if there's any option to do the entire course on site and not remotely. I am sorry, Smriti, we offer online courses. But Soumya, would you want to add anything to that?
Right, like I said before, the entire idea of And Academy is to bring that offline experience into an online classroom. So if you're worried only about it being online, don't worry. It has the same intensity. It has the same spirit of collaboration.
Shwet wants to know, how can an 8-month part-time diploma prepare to work in an industry compared to the full-time 4-year graphic design degree?
Okay, so firstly, let me tell you that our courses are quite hands-on. Okay, we make people do a lot of work. The learners that we have sitting here, the Miro boards that we took you through are an evidence of that, I think. So that's one. A lot of practice happens in those 8 months. Apart from that, our courses are designed in a way where we start with the very, very basics of design, and we make sure that you have those fundamentals strong, and then we slowly keep moving on to more complex projects. Like I said before, compared to a 4-year design course, you can't compare 8 months and 4 years, right? It's like comparing two very different things. But what we ensure is that you have your fundamentals in place, you have all the knowledge and the experience that you need to start working in the industry. To get started is a part of the course. Okay. Then after that, what a 4-year student learns is what you learn on the job, right? You never stop learning and getting better at design.
Right. Anupa wants to know, could you please share about the softwares that would be taught in the diploma course? How are the portfolios created? Many have told me that we get a job based on our portfolio.
Yes, that's actually very true. Your portfolio is what gets you a job. So having a strong portfolio of work is very, very important. We have a separate, portfolio designing week where we only help you get a strong portfolio out. What was the other part, Shubhangi, of the question? Sorry.
What are the softwares that are taught in the course, in the diploma course?
In the diploma course, you will learn Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, a little bit of After Effects, InDesign, and Figma.
Okay. Sachin wants to know, what is the work profile as a UI UX designer?
So as a UI UX designer, you're essentially looking at making digital products for your users. So you're dealing a lot with websites and apps as something that is practiced widely, but you can also design interfaces. So say, for example, if there's a booth put up on a railway station or at McDonald's where you can order things on your own, so those kind of interfaces also are designed by UI and UX designers. But again, this course is not something that will make you a UI UX designer. That's a separate course.
Yeah. Svigya has a very interesting question. How do you plan to accommodate students with attention span issues such as attention deficit disorder, which make it difficult for the learner to learn through online classes in its online UI UX course? Or would you recommend them to go for an offline approach instead?
I think it's something that you have to also personally figure out. If you think you are somebody who's not comfortable in an online space, then yeah, do go for an offline space. But like I said, our classes are very fast paced, and again, the students can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot happens in a class. You're working on things, you're discussing things, you're coming back for feedback, you're presenting. So again, there's a lot happening, right? So I think it's up to you to decide whether you'll be able to take that intensity or not.
Right.
Salma ma'am, if I may interject.
Sure, please.
I think I might be helpful in answering. I've been diagnosed with ADHD, and as my experience in the course, I used to struggle with meeting deadlines, but the support that you get from the mentors and the rigor of the course, you don't have to be worried about it because it's all a step-by-step process. Unless you miss the steps, you can go with the flow, and it sort of works in your favor actually. And to be honest, your ADD, if diagnosed, is a superpower that you can use while creating as well. So that is my 2 cents on this. Yeah.
Thank you for your wonderful insight, Meenakshi. Another attendee wants to know, how many students are there in the online diploma class?
So we look at running our course in smaller batches. So there might be about 25 to 30 people in a batch, not more than that.
Okay. I think that with that question, we come to the conclusion of this webinar. If there are any other questions, I would request the attendees to put them in the Q&A box. And I would also like to remind you again that in the chat box, there's a link to the form, which is a small Google form. And I request you to kindly fill it before you drop off. Let's just give 2 minutes to the attendees if there are any more questions. Otherwise. I would also like to congratulate all the learners on presenting their student work. It is wonderful to see your work take shape, and now that you're able to present all of this good work here. It was great work, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank
To
you.
enroll
Thank you.
myself in the graphic design course now.
Yes, please, Shubhangi, we would love to have you.
Okay, I guess we don't have any more questions. I'll wait for a minute so that you're able to fill out the form. The link is in the chat box. Any concluding remarks from you, Soumya? Would you like to say something before we end
No,
it?
I think I want to thank everybody for patiently listening to us on a Saturday morning. It was lovely to have you, and thank you to all of the learners that took out time from the multiple things that they're already juggling with and the projects that they're working on. Thank you so much for being here. It was very proud to see you present your work to the world today with such confidence.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining the webinar. I would like to bid goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Shubhangi. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Bye.